I am Michael Skiffington, Director of Policy and Planning for the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy, and I'd like to welcome you to the second listening session here at Richlands High School. So all those of you watching on WebEx, we're having severe bandwidth issues here right now, so we're not going to be able to stream video, but we will be archiving the audio, and the presentations from tonight will be posted on our website within the next couple of days. So we appreciate your patience and understanding. So this is part of the presentation tonight. If you happen to catch the first listening session in Big Stone Gap about a month ago, I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're here and the work group that the General Assembly has put together to look at this issue. And then we're going to have presentations from Brian Anderson at the Federal Department of Energy, and also some representatives from the University of Virginia at WISE. And then we will accept your public comments, and we really want to thank all of you for joining us both in the room and online. Thank you. Apologies. Okay. Everybody hear me now? Thank you very much. So the background is the library here goes back when the General Assembly's Audit Watchdog, the Joint Legislative and Audit Review Commission, also known as JLARC, put together a report about economic incentives in the Commonwealth. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get along here tonight. And as a result of that report, two pieces of legislation were introduced in this past session that formed the work group that DMME is leading to talk about these issues. And again, I'll talk more about this as we go. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the ongoing realignment currently underway in the Department of Mines. So the JLARC report goes back to September of 2020. There's a link to it in the presentation, and as I indicated, all the presentations are going to be posted on our website in the next couple of days. We've dedicated a page on our website to the Reenergize Southwest initiative. Now, this JLARC study looks at different tax credits across the Commonwealth, across different economic sectors, and it found that the two coal tax credits generate economic losses for the state and no longer appear relevant, and they felt that essentially those tax credits were no longer providing the Commonwealth the bang for the buck. And the report also stated coalfield regions' existing economic development strategies should be comprehensively evaluated. And as a result of that report from September, Delegate Hudson and Senator McPike this past January introduced legislation to repeal those coal tax credits. And during the legislative process, the bills were amended to create a work group led by DMME. And those bills did pass the General Assembly, and they have been signed into law by Governor Northam. So who is in the work group? Well, the legislation directs us at DMME to we will be working with the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, the Virginia Employment Commission, the Southwest Virginia Workforce Development Board, and the Council on Environmental Justice. Representatives from most, if not all, those organizations I've seen here in the room tonight. I appreciate all of y'all being here. So what is the work group supposed to do? Well, the legislation directs us to provide recommendations to the General Assembly as to how the Commonwealth can provide economic transition support to the coalfield region with a particular focus on 6 areas. 1, workforce redevelopment, economic diversification, reclamation of coal-impacted land and brownfields, community revitalization, infrastructure improvement, and clean energy development. And the presentations you will hear tonight and Thursday night, Clintwood will focus on all of these areas. So we've got a very aggressive timeline given to us by the General Assembly. A draft report is due September 1st, and the final report is due December 1st. And those timelines are even more aggressive when you factor in the time we have to give the governor's office to review review the report that we're about to draft. So we don't have a lot of time. So this is the second of 3 public meetings to be held across the country. As I mentioned, the first one was in Big Stone Gap at Mountain Empire Community College last month. And the third one will be Thursday night at the Jetty Baker Center in Clintwood. So in addition to the public comments that we're receiving here tonight and will be receiving on Thursday night, interested folks can also comment in a number of ways, by email to Reenergize, SWVA at DMME.virginia.gov, the chat feature in WebEx. We are recording those meetings, and we will be taking any comments submitted in the chat feature, and we will capture those for inclusion in the report. We've created a comment forum on the Virginia Regulatory Town Hall, and even good old U.S. mail to our Big Stone Gap office. So, talking a little bit now about the realignment underway at the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy. Historically, coal production in the Commonwealth peaked in 1990 and has decreased approximately 70% since then. And nearly all coal-fired power plants will close by 2025 as a result of legislation passed in 2020. And as a result of all these things and other factors as well, realigning its resources reflects a shift towards renewable energy and associated economic development opportunities. And just one way that is happening is we are creating new positions in our Big Stone Gap office to focus on renewable energy. Effective October 1st, our name is changing. We will become the Department of Energy as a result of legislation that passed this past session. Worker safety and environmental protection will continue to be important priorities for the agency on the regulatory side, and simultaneously we will continue to build on our economic development successes. We've long been a leader in Southwest Virginia to bolster economic development. We've placed over 200 businesses on previously mined land. With respect to the abandoned mine land project, DMME has awarded over almost $48 million for public water projects, creating thousands of jobs, and we have received $40 million from the federal government to continue to bolster economic development in Southwest Virginia. That's formerly known as the AML pilot program and is now referred to as the AMLR program, which stands for Abandoned Mine Lands Economic Revitalization. And we've also created an Office of Innovative Reclamation, and that's to foster creative approaches as to how we can better use post-mine land once the mining has been completed. We've engaged in some innovative public-private partnerships, Invest Southwest Virginia, looking at Project Oasis, which takes mine water underground and uses it to cool data centers, which makes them considerably cheaper to operate, and Project Thoroughbred, growing grains for the craft beverage. So those are just a couple of examples of what we're doing with development. Again, we have the contact information for myself and colleague Terry Hesterson, our Public Relations Manager. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. And now what we will do is I will introduce our first presenter tonight, Brian. I need one. So Brian is the Executive Director of the Biden administration's Interagency Working Group on Coal and Power Plant Communities and Economic Revitalization. He was appointed to this in April of 2021. He is a long-time resident of West Virginia, descendant of coal miners, brings extensive expertise, regional innovation, and technology development to the energy sector. He has served as Director for the National Energy Technology Lab since 2018. He has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering at West Virginia University and a master's and a doctorate in chemical engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Michael, thank you for the introduction, and thanks for allowing me to hop in on your listening session tonight. Just to give the audience a little bit of a background on the work of the Interagency Working Group, as mentioned on coal and power plant communities and economic revitalization, is born out of the executive order on tackling the climate crisis, knowing that the energy system moving in the future will change significantly, but also recognizing those changes that have occurred over the past couple of decades, certainly accelerating over the last decade, as illustrated by your data, about 70% of coal decline. Michael mentioned I'm the director of the National Energy Technology Laboratory. Since 1910, we've been the fossil energy laboratory. That certainly predated the Department of Energy, but upon the creation of the Department of Energy in the 70s, and then subsequently over the past few decades, we have been working in NETL, everything from solving some respirable coal mining dust issues back in the early part of last century, up to developing carbon capture sequestration technologies for today and tomorrow, and also lots of work on value-added products from coal, including coal to graphene and coal to products, similar to some efforts going on in southwestern Virginia that are certainly exciting to me as an engineer. I mentioned the interagency working group was established by the executive order signed by the president in January. In that executive order, it called for the establishment of the interagency working group and a report due 60 days after the signing of the executive order, with recommendations of how to catalyze economic activity in coal and power plant and energy communities writ large, how we can catalyze economic activity and support workers specifically. So this interagency working group put together 11 different federal agencies. The Department of Energy was asked to host and execute on the interagency working group. I'm a Department of Energy career federal employee, and part of our portfolio at the National Lab is to develop technologies, and now to work across these 11 federal agencies to identify and bring resources to bear, specifically targeting coal and power plant communities. So the interagency working group is made up of Department of Treasury, Interior, and so Interior, certainly the Abandoned Mine Land Program, Department of Agriculture, Commerce, and thinking commerce, that's the EDA, the Economic Development Authority, Department of Labor and Health and Human Services, Transportation, Energy, Education, the EPA, and the Appalachian Regional Commission, with whom I'm working closely with the Appalachian Regional Commission co-chairs, both your governor in Virginia and Gail Manchin, the administration's federal co-chair. So this working group, I mentioned the different federal agencies, but the IWG membership itself is at the agency head. These are the secretaries of the different agencies, or the administrators on the administrators of the different agencies. I mentioned it's administered by the Secretary of Energy, but chaired by the Director of the National Economic Council, Brian Deese, who certainly has a focus on economic revitalization, what can be done to ensure diversification of economies across historical energy communities, and the National Climate Advisor, Gina McCarthy, who has a focus on how we do the economic revitalization and move forward and have coal and power plant communities participate in the decarbonization of the energy sector. So fitting right in a tough challenge of a conundrum, how to revitalize coal and energy communities while solving the climate challenge is certainly the dual challenge that we're working on. So the goals are to create good paying union jobs, really careers for supporting families, to spur economic revitalization and diversity in communities. We can do it with a lever at our disposal in remediating environmental degradation, think the acid mine drainage, sludge ponds, and as well as abandoned mine lands and plugging orphan and abandoned wells. I'm a longtime West Virginian, and for 150 years we've been drilling wells, and there are lots of orphan and abandoned wells across all of Appalachia, and how we support energy workers. So the guiding principles that were outlined in the initial report to the president 60 days after the signing of the executive order, again, to create those good paying jobs, support energy workers, providing the federal investment not as the handout, but to catalyze economic revitalization. And so there's a key guiding principle here is to work with communities directly. As Michael mentioned, I'm a product of the West Virginia coal fields and oil and gas in my background. And I know it's really important to understand the great efforts that are already happening in communities, just like what DMME is trying to gather in southwestern Virginia as well. We have a guiding principle to adopt a government-wide approach because of the silos of the federal government, the bureaucracies of the federal government. Our goal is to lower those barriers for the communities to access the right resources and to create a one-stop shop, in fact. And that's why the National Energy Technology Laboratory is the DOE's only federally operated laboratory. We manage the program for the Office of Fossil Energy, as well as significant parts of Office of Electricity, cybersecurity, and even the Advanced Vehicles program. And so we have a lot of experience in putting taxpayer dollars to work on the ground in communities, and that's why we've been asked to help lead this effort to make sure we can reach across all the federal agencies and put taxpayer dollars to work in coal, power plant, and energy communities. And so we are embarking on stakeholder engagement, community listening tours. That's why I'm jumping on the back of DMME's efforts because we want to hear from communities, community leaders, individuals, and energy workers in communities around the country. The report identified 25 priority energy communities, including southwestern Virginia, as would not be very surprising. And we have identified up to $38 billion in potential funding across the 11 federal agencies. And we're working with the agency heads and their representatives throughout those agencies to make sure that we are guiding investment into the coal and power plant communities, first prioritizing these 25 communities that have the largest fraction of their employment base based on coal historically and today. So I've mentioned these 25 areas. Certainly, it's not surprising to see that southwestern Virginia comes up there at number 4 in terms of the percentage reliant on coal or coal-related employment. And so this is one of our key priority communities. So to learn what's going on the ground in your region and to be able to leverage the federal resources across the federal government. So we are kicking off a stakeholder listening tour with roundtable discussions, community tours, town hall meetings, workshops, return visits, because we want to hear the experiences that are going on in communities, experiences working with and failures with working with the federal government, so we can in fact try to fix it. And our next steps are to continue to establish the working group structure and ongoing operations. We are a pretty significantly impactful organization across the 11 agencies. We have to stand up. We're doing that as we speak, working across the agencies and even with the White House. We're engaging the stakeholders, launching a listening tour, and have already announced some of the investments out of the Department of Energy and some of the other agencies, and really trying to make sure that these investments are put to work. I mentioned the one-stop shop, the whole of government approach. Our approach is to make it easier for communities to access federal support, and so that we're planning for long-term engagement in communities, understanding that it in some cases takes a long time to see the fruit of the labor, and we're in it for the long game. And so that's my short, brief overview of the efforts, and just like Michael had said, I should have had my email address on here. My email address, I'll make sure is I'll put on the PDF version of these slides, but it is brian.anderson@doe.gov, and soon we'll have a website up that'll be energycommunities.gov. It's not up yet, but brian.anderson@energy.gov can get directly to me, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Michael.
All right.
Hey, Mike, if you're talking, I'm not hearing you on the WebEx. Sorry, everyone. I'm trying to work through this technical difficulty. I think they've switched to the podium, which is why the sound is cut out. I'm trying to figure it out. Just 1 second. So I've unmuted every phone that I see calling in. Tara, I don't see you in the attendee list. So if you can hear me, that's what I'm going through right now. And Mike, I have you muted. I'm going to unmute Mike, and they're going to switch the mics in the room. So I've unmuted him.
Who want to open up entrepreneurial endeavors and business in the region. We are currently advancing to provide graduate degrees at the college, and the first graduate degree will be a nurse practitioner program that will be accepting applications this fall, and will open next fall, in fall of 22, to new students. In our community college system, between Southwest and Mountain Empire Community Colleges, both of those institutions are very responsive to industry demand. And they are responsive in that they can turn and create training programs so that a ready workforce can be here in Southwest Virginia for new industry that comes in. There are creative programs, including smart farming at Mountain Empire Community College, power linemen, drone technology education. So all of those are prepared for these new technologies to have an impact. UVA-wise has strong articulation agreements with the community colleges so that students who complete a 2-year degree, if they want to pursue a 4-year degree, they can come on to the college. In addition to the state-funded institutions, we have Bluefield College here in the region, and Bluefield is also very responsive, and we have great collaboration across the institution. We go to the next slide. So our role, higher education's role in the coal fields really is to supply talent. So we work hard to align our programs to meet industry and employer needs. And good examples of that is when I interview employers of what they want our students to know and understand. There are skills that you get from a discipline, but they also need our students to be able to work well in groups. They need our students to communicate well in writing and verbally, and they need our students also to be ready to continue to learn. The jobs that are out there now are constantly changing, and we need to prepare our students to be able to move where the new jobs move. Each of our higher education institutions leverages resources to build upon the strength of the region and to address any gaps that are there. Each institution is also a significant economic impact driver. UVA-wise, in a study done in 2016, we contributed $84 million annually to the economy in the Commonwealth and $65 million to our local region. Additionally, we serve as a support organization for Go Virginia, which is an important Go Virginia Region 1, which is an important resource for the economy of Southwest Virginia. So I also work on that regional council, and the council really does deep thinking that's required to catalyze regional planning and to get funding to project having a positive impact on our region. So beyond providing talent, our educational institutions are strong allies for the economic development organizations in the region, and we will continue to work hard to support their efforts. And with that, I will turn this over to Pamela.
Thank you, Tangela. So the next slide, next couple slides, we'll be talking about regional strategies. This really is a partial list. Kind of think about from the regional perspective, all of the different levers that this region is pulling to try to revitalize, try to diversify our economy. So you look at, we're building a lot of assets around recreation, outdoor adventure, and recreation. And certainly over the last 6 years, we've seen an increase in importance. That's a very important driver in our economy. But we also have a lot of other assets. We're building and strengthening our agriculture base, not just in growing, but also in food and beverage processing, and still opportunities for growth, and looking at being vertically integrated in that sector. Advanced manufacturing, we have a culture of manufacturing in our area, and a lot of the skills and talents that were developed through the mining industry are transferable with some training and some certification into advanced manufacturing. Several others you've heard talking about Mike Anderson of the focus on solar and other types of energy, which this is the energy region. Definitely information technology, data storage, data centers as one of the areas. Kind of think about the broadband investment that's been made in the region, the strong programs related to information technology that all the colleges and higher education institutions have. That is a real opportunity for growth. The region certainly is supporting and building ecosystem, supporting entrepreneurship and small business. And then we're looking at our downtowns, driving our downtowns in the last 5 years to see that some of them are revitalizing in spite of some of the challenges that we're having economically. Significant investment in broadband, I just mentioned earlier, and then there are also industrial sites all across the region that are adding various different components, going from tier 3 to tier 4. Tier 4, I don't think we have a tier 5 site here in this area, but we are developing additional products in that economic development language. When employers and prospects look at this region, we need to have ready to go sites. So that is a lever being pulled. We're trying to connect each other here in this area by helping people connect digitally. And in Appalachia is a new initiative underway. We certainly are, not being a Pollyanna. We understand there are issues in our region. And I think as a region, we're trying to address access to health care as well as substance disorder. We're looking at the best and highest use of our land in that area. And that's something that DMME has certainly been a key, and the Nature Conservancy have been key partners in doing so. Couldn't go do a presentation without talking about one of the other levers, and that's one of the big projects in this region happening in CDC3 in the Washington County area with the casino. And then also this area is right for distribution because of our westernmost logistics and our good roadways and connections to interstate. Next slide. So some of the targeted industries, the Chancellor mentioned Go Virginia. When we went through in 2017 and updated in 2019, the growth and diversification plan for the region highlighted 4 areas that were the best key opportunities for this region to expand. And those happen to be manufacturing, agriculture, information technology, and energy and minerals. So the growth and diversification plan for Region 1, which is planning districts 1, 2, and 3, is the only growth and diversification plan across all of Virginia. They're 9 regions. This is Region 1. This is the only growth and diversification plan that includes energy and minerals as a target industry that's worth investment and worth being able to grow. I've listed here a few of the projects that Go Virginia has funded in each one of these industry sectors. Some of them actually bleed over from a transition over to singly just one energy or just in manufacturing. So some of them do have application in multiple sectors. If you look at manufacturing, we're working with Gen Edge all across the region and across the state, helping their manufacturers look for opportunities in the market to new products. Really, the catalyst happened to be the pandemic, where we saw the supply chains really being threatened across the Commonwealth. So this is a large statewide project that is started here in Region 1. Project Innovation is one that is spearheaded by Invest SWBA, and is really looking at pump storage and working with Liberty University to find a new way of being able to economically generate and store energy. In agriculture, the Chancellor mentioned Mountain Empire Community College's Smart Farming. They launched a first drone certificate program in the Commonwealth a couple of years ago. We partnered that with agriculture, and there's opportunities of really utilizing technology to increase the yield for our farmers. And then Project Thoroughbred was also mentioned earlier, of looking at growing grains across each region, using our land for the best and highest use to be able to not only bring new income in for our farmers, but be able to be part of a meaningful supply chain in that food and beverage and agriculture industry. Information technology, United Way, Southwest Ignite program, really helping their youth understand all of the different occupations that are available to them, but also helping them connect through internships. And then the digital workforce development. This is a project. It's also, I think this one is a William King Museum project of helping to increase the certification in Adobe that creative platform that many of our creative students and creative artists need to have access to. In energy and minerals, just really quickly, 2 projects. One is really centered in the Bluefield-Tazewell County area. We have one of the manufacturers here today, really looking at what are the ways that manufacturers can partner together to be able to build energy storage systems. And then Project Energizer, looking at of ways of being able to build an industrial site that can have R&D and innovation all around all forms of energy. There isn't one like that that exists anywhere in our region, in the Commonwealth, and mostly in the Southeast United States. And then opportunities on the horizon. This is not an exhaustive list because I am a glass half full type of person, and I think there are plenty of opportunities for this region to grow and to revitalize and diversify. But here's just when you think about how can we utilize all the stuff that we talked about to be able to connect where technology intersects with all of our different industries, helping our industries get more efficient, more effective. The sweet spot is on those intersections. Looking at vertically integrating in our agriculture. Agriculture is still one of our primary industries in this part of the region and across the state. How can we help our growers, but also bring in food and beverage manufacturers and processors in our region? Looking for linkages all across the state. What are the other regions across Region 9 starting for? What are those supply chains that they're having trouble getting? And connecting them with our manufacturers and with suppliers here in our region. Also looking at the federal government just recently has passed legislation to create 18 technology hubs. 6 of those must be in rural regions. This region needs to be positioned as one. The next one is looking at rare earth minerals. It speaks directly to the energy area. We know that there are vast needs of rare earth minerals in the production of semiconductors. That is a huge supply chain issue right now. And this region can hold the answer for being able to find an economical way to be able to recover rare earth minerals. And then we have to, as a region, figure out how do we address the shortages in housing and in childcare shortages, which will ultimately end up causing some of our employers to have issues growing their workforce. This is just a list. I'll leave it here to kind of peruse, but this is just a partial list in alphabetical order of those resources that and I can identify that we already have access. And there is additional funding coming from, as we heard earlier. It is up to us to figure out how do we keep all those together and then to be able to have a regional strategy that we don't dilute our impact. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll begin our public comment portion, and we'll announce the list in line as you signed up, and I'll call the first 3 names, and then we'll continue on from there. My apologies beforehand if I mispronounce anyone's name due to my misconception of what I'm reading on the paper here. We'll kick things off with Bill Bunch, followed by Sydney McClanahan, and then Jonathan Belcher.
If Bill has started talking, we online are not hearing his comments, so just wanted to let that be known.
thank you very much for your comments. We encourage anyone who is speaking tonight to follow up and submit comments to us at the Reenergize Southwest email address so that we make sure that we fully capture all of your comments. And if folks wouldn't mind coming up to the podium as best you can so we can help the people listening on WebEx to hear your comments.
So next we have Cindy McClanahan, then Jonathan Belcher, and Scotty Wampler.
Actually, I'm Patty McClanahan. That's okay. I've been called worse. I don't want to repeat a lot of what's been said tonight. I think it's very exciting what's going on. We've needed this for a long time, as everyone in here knows. I just want to speak to the issues that I consider important here in doing what DMME and others are combining here to do. I think we need to consider our resources here. Our people, I think, are one of our major resources in this area. We're a wonderful group of people. That's all you can say. I was at an event yesterday, and I'm always just so pleased when I hear the camaraderie of our people, the friendliness, the kindness, the compassion that I always hear exhibited. And believe it or not, people still address me sometimes as ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. So I think our people, and I'll say this, a few years ago, I operated my home as a B&B, and everyone that came commented that this is the best kept secret in this area in the United States, the beauty, and particularly the people. They could not believe the friendliness and just overall goodwill of our people. And of course, that includes their, I think, somewhat well-known work ethic, the willingness of the people here to do what needs to be done. I think our mountaineer attitude is we're done. I think we have some resources in abandoned buildings here. I can think of a couple within just probably 2 miles of this facility we're in now that could be utilized perhaps to bring in, with some funding, of course, some remodeling, perhaps retirement into the abandoned building, perhaps even assisted living or nursing home facility. I think those would be ripe opportunities. Of course, our natural resources include just the beauty. And I know that all of our boards of supervisors are dealing with tourism, ecotourism, and that's wonderful. I think there's much more that can be done in that area. I think particularly where I grew up in Buchanan County, there are lots of streams that just come out of the county. And these possibly could be developed for some water parks and things of that nature that would help with the ecotourism aspect. Also, I think water is a natural resource the rest of the world is going to be fighting for in the not distant future. We are still blessed to have water. We need to protect that at our cost. We have 2 of the cleanest rivers east of the Mississippi, and the Little River and the Clinch River. Let's protect that. Let's protect our water. Let's not it be raped, pillaged, and plundered as our coal and our timber and our gas has been. All that over a 100-year period has, as I said, I'll call it what it is, raped, pillaged, and plundered right out from under us. The money went to Europe, went to the East Coast, to the cities, and left us with no infrastructure. Nothing left but abandoned mine lands and all the things that you already know. So let's protect our water, for goodness sake. I think considerations we need to look at are demographic. I'm a strong believer in data. I think we need to look at our demographics intuitively. I think we all know that we're older, and we know the reasons for that. Young people, there's nothing here for them. There's not work. There's not entertainment. They leave. I understand that. I know why. But we need to look at those demographics. And as I was saying, perhaps we could use some of these abandoned buildings or non-used buildings at the moment anyway for nursing homes, for assisted living, for things of that nature. We need to consider internet availability. I live, as the crow flies, not even half a mile from there. I cannot get internet. Yet we are pouring millions of dollars into obtaining broadband and internet services in our area. And I don't know, perhaps I'm wrong about this, but I believe that that's going to be antiquated in the not too distant future. It's going to be irrelevant because of what Elon Musk is doing with Starlink. Starlink is, and I'm not promoting Elon Musk here, but the satellite internet, that type of satellite internet, I'm talking about Dish and Direct and all that, but that kind of internet is what we need here in the mountains. Another consideration, I believe, is land ownership. I was present in 1983, I'm old, at several boards of supervisors meetings in various counties in Southwest Virginia when a young lady came before them and did a presentation on a land ownership study that she and others had done. It was 1983. She talked about absentee ownership. I found it very interesting. I've never forgotten it because it shored up so much of what Harry Cole said in Night Comes to the Cumberland in around 1962, for which he was literally written out on a rail in Kentucky for telling the truth of what the coal corporations, the timber corporations, and so on had done to us in the coal fields. Now, she gave a wonderful presentation, and the supervisors all said, "Thank you very much." And I never heard another piece about it again recently, when I believe Appalachian Voices is reinvigorating that study and bringing it more up to date. But I will tell you, at that time, that's in my memory, more of Southwest Virginia was owned by absentee owners than was owned by people who live here. I do recall, I believe, that in Dickinson County, 85% of Dickinson County surface area was owned by absentee owners. Now, what's the point of this? The point is that absentee owned land is, at that time, I don't know how it is now, was not taxed as developed property. Okay, so who's paying for schools, the roads, and the other things, the other services that counties have to provide that you and me live here? Okay? Do those corporations who own all this property get federal tax benefits? I'm not sure, but I bet they do. For allowing this land to lay fallow and to be undevelopable, so to speak. Another consideration is education. What is the focus of our education programs here in Southwest Virginia? Now, I'm so happy with what the UVA-wise has been doing. I'm trying to keep up with stuff. But as a former educator myself and having worked for the Education Association for about 30 years, and having been what is called an educational futurist, I take great interest in what we're going to do in public education. Now, in 1983, Ronald Reagan appointed a commission on the future of education, which was basically ignored, as is most reports on public education. But it gave a very good outline of where, even 40 years ago, we needed to be going with public education. Have we gotten there? No. Are we going to get there? Who knows? We need to think about our children. I don't have any children in school. A few years ago, I did some research, and all the Roanoke Valley, 65% of of the people had no connection to public education. They had no children in public education, no grandchildren going to public school. So what is their interest in public? We, here, older demographics that we are, we've got to say what our kids are going to be looking at. What kind of jobs are they going to be having? And I'm so proud of VBAY and what our educators have achieved in that area. Use of land, folks have talked about that a lot. Casinos, why not? I brought that up in a meeting, and boy, did I get shot down really fast. But I don't know why we didn't take some of our strip mine land and make some casinos up there. Talk about bringing in some money, that would. But anyway, I guess that concludes my comments. I'll share my 3 minutes. But thank you very much for having me.
Next, we are going to have Jonathan Belcher, Scotty Wampler, and then Ray Stewart.
Just had a few brief comments. Don't want to be redundant with the comments I offered at the other session at Big Stone Gap, but would like to speak briefly about the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority. The legislation that set into place this stakeholder process, which was House Bill 1899, Senate Bill 1252, that bill actually repealed the coal tax credit. And there were 2 primary groups that were negatively impacted by that. And that was the coal industry, the metallurgical coal industry here in Southwest Virginia, and then the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority that I'm the executive director of. And what Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority is, or VCEDA as we call it as an acronym, we're a regional economic development group that was created in 1988 to diversify and enhance the economy of the Coalfield region. And it really was quite unique. It's the only organization of this type we're aware of in the country in which there was funding taken from taxes paid by the coal and natural gas industry in Southwest Virginia to fund the region's economic development. And since that time, VCEDA has been involved in over 400 projects in the region, about $300 million in funding, and all of that has been paid for by taxes that have been paid by the coal and natural gas industry. However, with the repeal of the coal tax credit, that resulted in about a 25% reduction in the budget of VCEDA, and so that's obviously going to have a negative impact on the region's economic development. And we do 2 primary things in addition to funding. I talked about loans and grants for various projects. We're also an organization that goes out and recruits companies to the area. We've been doing this, for the past over 30 years. The organization has. I started in VCEDA at VCEDA about 24 years ago. But about half our time is spent going out and talking to companies to recruit them to the area. The other half of our time is spent in engaging in financing activities, loans, and grants to help businesses in the area. And we've always viewed our role, and we feel like why the General Assembly created VCEDA was to create jobs, because at the end of the day, if people in the area don't have jobs, then a lot of other things really are not necessary. I mean, you have to have employment. So that's what VCEDA and its board has always viewed as our primary mission. So that's why we feel like it's important to maintain the organization strong, to have a strong regional economic development organization to do these types of things. And I would just like to conclude my remarks by saying I think the record speaks for itself about what VCEDA has accomplished in the area. If you bear with me for the record, I would like to read a list of companies that VCEDA has either recruited and or provided incentives to, and this is just a sample list. Like I said, about 400 projects we've been involved with. But I think after I read this, you'll get an idea of what the significance of the organization has been for the region. So the companies that we've either recruited or helped have been AMR PIMCO, the Appalachian College of Pharmacy, the Appalachian School of Law, AT&T Wireless, back of the Dragon Visitor Center, Unifuse, Breaks Interstate Park, Bruno's Bait, the Cannon Pump, Carbon Research and Development Company, Ceramic Technology, CGI, Clinch River Hemp Company, Flintwood Sleep In and Suites, Dickinson Community Hospital, the Dominion Hybrid Energy Center Power Plant, England Furniture, Forest Bioproducts, the Grundy Town Center where the Walmart is at, Heart of Appalachia Tourism, In at Wise, Issues and Answers, JM Conveyors, Lawrence Brothers, Lebanon Holiday Inn, Main 5, Mineral Gap Data Center, Mountain Empire Community College, Northfield Fabrication, North of Grumman, the One Partner Data Center in Scott County, Paul's Fan Company, Polycap, Pure Salmon, otherwise known as Project Jonah, Pipe Boone Electronics, Riverbound Trout Farms, Rambler Wood Products, Rogers Phone Corporation, SAIC, Samuel Pressure Vessel Group, Serco, Simmons Equipment Company, Southern Gap Outdoor Adventures, Southwest Virginia Community College, Spearhead Trails, Fox Enterprises, Synergy Biofuels, Tadano Manus, Telemed, Temper Sealy, PDEC, Teletech, University of Virginia's College at Wise, VFT, the Virginia Employment Commission Call Center, West River Conveyors and Machinery, and the Western Front Hotel. And these are all projects that have significant employment and or hundreds of thousands, if not billions of dollars of private investment. So just wanted to mention a few of those to give you an idea of the work that DCETA has been involved with. And obviously, we're hopeful as a result of this process that DCETA our funding will be allowed to be continued. So we'll have funding for economic development in the area, because I can assure you the calls that I've gotten over the years from other states, including West Virginia, that wish that they had an organization like DCETA to help their economic development in the area. So thank you very much.
Next we'll have Scotty Wumbler, then Grace Stewart, followed by Mike Himes and Tom Lester on the same line. So if you guys want to tag team it, that's fine.
Good evening. My name is Scotty Wampler. I'm the Economic Recovery Coordinator for Cumberland Plateau Planning District Commission. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you tonight. And Jonathan, that was a very impressive list. We talk a lot collectively in this region, I think, about the need to invest in next-gen infrastructure, modern connectivity, opportunities for a younger workforce. And with the help of several partners, of which DCETA was key, we believe, in fact, we know for rural communities, the gains that we are making in these areas are envied by other similar markets across the country. The fact of the matter is fiber broadband deployment, and by the way, I hope that's not antiquated in 5 years, in reference to the prior speaker. It's occurring throughout the region right now at a pace hitherto unseen. And getting to this point, required a lot of work on the part of the PDC and its partners, and of course a lot of patience, a lot of hard work. We're grateful to DCETA for its $1 million investment into our fiber broadband systems backbone network, and this is for certain. Without that and other partner investments, the recent $15.6 million award, courtesy of the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative to the Cumberland Plateau PDC, which, by the way, is part of an overall $45 million investment into new broadband infrastructure in the region, it simply would not have been possible. That project did get underway late last month, and it will extend quality, high-speed fiber broadband internet to more than 13,000 unserved and underserved homes in the counties of Buchanan, Dickinson, Russell, and Tazewell. On an arguably larger scale, DCETA has supported to the tune of $1.5 million a 4G cell tower initiative led by our sister organization, of which we are a member. That's the Virginia Coalfield Coalition, which saw 27 existing towers and 11 new towers across a 5-county area lit with 4G LTE coverage just a few years ago. DCETA's support on that project helped the VCC provide wireless data service across areas of PDCs 1 and 2. These regional projects, well, they've resulted in transformational connectivity initiatives in this region across our end of Southwest Virginia. And while certainly much work does remain to realize holistic coverage, both wirelessly and with wired broadband, it was, dare I say, DCETA's shrewdness in recognizing the value of these projects to our future economic and community development efforts that help set the stage for these successes. On a more localized level, and speaking as a former county level economic developer and tourism director here in the region, we can all recognize, I believe, that small business development, tourism, and asset-based development is playing an important role and will continue to play an important role in the future of our region, both from the perspective of attracting outside investment as well as building wealth from within here in our counties. What a game-changing opportunity it would be if throughout this process and as a result of this process, prospective entrepreneurs in our region through BCEDA's various programs, such as the Tourism Capital Improvement and Seed Capital Matching Funds, doubled or tripled, quadrupled in size. It's the PDC's view that BCEDA has been a remarkably responsible steward of these funds over the years, and what's as important, BCEDA has not shied away, we don't feel, from embracing out-of-the-box development concepts that today are, frankly, paying the region in dividends. So on behalf of the planning district, I would urge the stakeholders through this process, or the work group rather, to recommend the restoration of these funds to BCEDA. Thank you.
Next we'll have Grace Stewart, followed by Mike Hines, and then Tom Lester. That's fine. If you don't mind, let I come down with you. That's fine. Yeah. And I'm just going to bring this for our web viewers so they can hear you as well.
The problem I see here is attitude. And since 1990, 70% of the coal mines are closed. But I'm a new resident in this area, and I still hear the attitude, if it's good enough for my granddad, it's good enough for my dad, it's good enough for me. We need to change the attitude to go forward. Some of the small things that I think we need are tradesmen, plumbers, electricians, woodworkers. I don't find many of them in this area. And we need them for starters. This is an excellent program, but you have to somewhere start small. And starting small is trying to find a plumber when you need one. The other thing is something like the Civilian Conservation Corps. Way back in the Depression area, people were building infrastructure, men were working on camps and everything else. We could do stuff like that. I also think with this kind of program, and here it comes, the gas line. I understand in this area there is a wonderful gas line that we don't seem to be able to use. We have electric and we have propane. Where I come from, we had gas. So we had gasoline stoves, we had gas heat. And sometimes I think gas may be a little less expensive or cheaper than electric. And that's about what I have to say. But I'm glad I live in this area. I'm glad that we're working towards improving this area because I want to stay here. Thank you.
Next we have Mike Hines, Tom Lester, then Melanie Platulon. Would you guys like to return to the podium?
Good evening. I'm Tom Lester. I'm the chairman of the Tazewell County Board of Supervisors. I have with me Mike Pond, who is the vice chair, and China Plaster, who is the Northwestern District representative on the Board of Supervisors. We are a coal-field county, and we ask that the work group consider listening to those of us who are coal-field counties. There are several here. So on June the 10th, Bear County Board of Supervisors unanimously passed a resolution, and Vice Chairman Himes would like to read that.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. Just for full disclosure, I've served twice on VCETA. I know exactly what they do and how well they use the funds that they are given by the people that mine coal and gas here in this area. This was a special called meeting of the Board of Supervisors of Tazewell County held at the County Administration Office on June the 10th, and it's a resolution of support for the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority. Whereas the coal and gas resources are continually extracted from Tazewell County as the third largest producer of coal and gas in the Commonwealth of Virginia, whereas automation of the industry and environmental regulations have greatly diminished the local employment and investment created by the coal and gas industries in Tazewell County, whereas the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, VCETA, is a prime means of fostering diversification of the county's economy away from dependency on coal and gas industry. And whereas the board finds VCETA is a critical economic development tool for Tazewell County based on the hundreds of jobs retained or created in Tazewell County over the last 4 years, with VCETA financing and hundreds currently being created due to VCETA's financial incentives, and the many, many more jobs created or retained through VCETA's efforts in their long history. Get to the second page here. It's stuck together. Whereas, pursuant to the legislation passed in 2021 session of the General Assembly, a commission has been appointed to discuss reallocation of VCETA's primary source of funding to institutions which may or may not be successful in the field of economic development and may or may not concentrate their efforts in Tazewell County as VCETA has. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Tazewell County Board of Supervisors hereby reaffirm the support and their support of VCETA and opposes any defunding of its programs or diversification of its resources to any other entities. That was passed unanimously at our June 10th meeting. Our board believes in VCETA. We know what they can do, and we know what they will do as long as they're allowed to be funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Melanie Crotty-Lawrence, followed by Ernie McFadden, and then Tony Stody.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm going to try to keep my comments brief, but I do want to let you know that I'm here representing all business owners of Central Appalachia. I don't know how many other business owners are here, but I would encourage you to speak your truth. I want to give you a little bit of background on Lawrence Brothers, which is the company that my husband and I own. We have been in right outside of Bluefield, Virginia for 48 years now. My grandfather started the business solely to build battery boxes for underground coal mining. Today, in 2021, we have less than 2% of our revenue is coal mining related. So, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, we are a poster child example of what diversification and consistency and pulling on all of the regional resources that you have can do. So my grandfather started the business in a 3-car garage with 3 or 4 employees, grew the business to where we are currently, and just through cash flow and as we grew, he would add on to the building. The growth was very slow, but steady. Today we still have 2 of our original customers that we had back then. Sorry if I don't speak as eloquently as everybody else, but I want to give you guys a boots on the ground idea of what Southwest Virginia is and why we need organizations not just like the CETA, but Cumberland Plateau and the workforce and all of the organizations that we've mentioned. So one thing that when my husband and I came on board 15 years ago, we began working on diversification very aggressively at that point. We were 99% coal mining related. For anyone who is or has been involved in coal, it's very lucrative. We were in a niche market. We were building battery boxes, one of only 3 companies in the entire United States building those, so we could pretty much name our price. Since then, obviously, coal has substantially declined, and now we are working more in the motive power industry, so industry that moving things in warehouses. So all of these massive warehouses that you see coming down 81 or in other road systems across the United States, you will see these warehouses that are employing hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of square feet of space, and all of them are moving goods and services with forklifts and fork trucks, and we are producing 1/3 of those boxes that hold the batteries in the entire country, right here in Louisville, Virginia. So most people don't even know that we're here. They don't know not only the gem that our business is, but that manufacturing is as a part of the culture of Southwest Virginia. That's where I see the future of Southwest Virginia going, but that's only going to happen if we pull together and we collaborate across educational lines and economic development lines and political lines. And we have to listen to not just business owners, but business leaders and people who are in the trenches, right? People we are the backbone of this economy. We're the people who have built this up from the ground up. So just to give you a little bit of insight into how the CETA has helped us, as I said, we grew pretty organically for the first 20 to 25 years of our business. My father was second generation, and he really took it to the next level with regards to technology and adding new equipment that would enable us to work more efficiently. And as my husband and I came along, again, we realized that diversification had to happen or we were going to die. That was not entirely well received, as you've said, sir. People around here do not want to admit that that coal is dead, and of course we're always going to have our met coal, but I'm here to tell you that coal is dead, and that's okay. And we need to move forward, because if we don't, we're only going to move backwards. That is not to deny or diminish any of the accomplishments that coal miners have made or that the coal has been to our region, because it has been very important. But what gets you to one level is not going to be what gets you to the next level. Anybody in business can tell you that, right? Or in the education sector. So when Komatsu and Louisville, Virginia closed, I know that came as a shock and a surprise to a lot of people. That was something, and I'm not saying this for any kind of pat on the back or anything, but that was something I could have predicted 2.5 years ago was going to happen. Because we were not building any new trade for them, any new battery boxes for them for at least 24 to 36 months prior. So they were dying. It's really actually a surprise that they stayed in business as long as they did. And why is that? Because they did not diversify their efforts here in Southwest Virginia. It wasn't important enough to them. And if I offend anybody by that, I'm sorry. But that's just how it is. We have to stop worrying about offending one another, and we have to come together and really try to work together. So the CETA has been instrumental in our growth over the past several years. So we have grown from in 2016, we had 16 employees, and today I just hired my 88th employee. 40 of those employees have been hired since March of last year. So for those of you who realize how the pandemic has adversely impacted our region, you will see that that's a leap. That's a huge testament not only to the work ethic of our people, but into the resilience, and in my opinion, also to the importance of listening to business owners and business leaders that are making this economy turn. We are the wheels of the economy. So speaking on the workforce, going back to speaking on the CETA has been able to, we've been able to receive $1 million over over the last 3 years in low interest loans, and that has enabled us to put in two high-speed fiber optic lasers. So we have 3 now. We're the only company in the area anywhere from here to Charlotte that has 3 of those. So they are running 24/6 right now. So we have 3 shifts that we're running with those 88 employees. We would definitely not have been able to grow as quickly had it not been for that critical funding, not only from Bethesda, but from the SDFA as well as Cumberland Plateau Planning District. So we definitely feel like that support and those resources are important not only to companies like ourselves, but to the infrastructure in general and the growth of our region. If we take that away now, all we're going to see is a decline in the growth and all of the efforts that we have put forth. So as I said, we've grown from a company of 99% coal mining related just 15 years ago to 2% now. We have actually just decided to move away from a rework operation with coal mining, which can be quite lucrative when steel is not $1.35 a hundredweight. It was 30 cents a hundredweight back in March of last year, just to give you guys some perspective on how that has exponentially grown. So what we really need, in my opinion, is the education and the workforce. We have to work together so that we can communicate clearly with what we need. While I see UVA-wise and Southwest Virginia Community College, you guys are doing great things, but I really would love to see, and I beg of you to come and visit companies like ourselves and come and talk to us about the things that we need, because even the welding programs and the certification programs that are in place are not serving companies like us well. The curriculum are not, and I speak on behalf of several companies all across from Lake County all the way down to Lee County that have this same perspective. We actually have a group called the Appalachian Council of Business Leaders, of which I'm the chairperson of, and we are a group of business leaders that have come together, and we want to pull Southwest Virginia together, and really lead as one voice, not just for citizens, but for business owners, for anyone who is wanting to grow Central Appalachia as a whole and truly bring out that wealth, like Scotty was saying, truly grow from within and pull into and support our small businesses on the ground, our local businesses, rather than always pulling from the outside. What I think that a lot of people don't realize is your economic development strategy is reliant on only pulling people from the outside. That's not sustainable. What's sustainable is pulling from the roots, from the people that are here that have built the economy, and pouring into them the resources and the assistance that you have. And then we will be your strongest marketing tool by word of mouth. When businesses come to the area, they want to speak to people like myself, and they want to know how we're treated. They want to know what the workforce is like. They want to know what the school systems are like. And for better or worse, I'm someone who's going to give them how it is. I'm someone who's going to tell them exactly like it is. Our education is lacking. It really is. I know that we're working on that. I know we're getting better at that, but I think we're not going to get to the level where we need to be unless we have some very strategic and aligned collaboration with business owners and business leaders. So thank you for listening to my comments.
Next, we have Ernie McFadden, followed by Tony Doty, then Barbara Altizer.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and speak. There's a lot of programs in our area that I think are doing a great job, and just want to give my shout out to be seated. I can tell you in my time of being in economic development, every project that I have worked on, they are the first person at the table. They have always been there to support us in everything that we have ever done. A lot of the companies that they have brought in since I have been in this position have been to do exactly what we're trying to do, and that is diversify our economy here. That just really can't say enough good things about them. A lot of the things that previous speaker said, you're exactly right. I mean, we have to work from within and build our companies that we have here. We have a lot of great companies in our area
that have built from the roots up many generations like yours. And we have to focus on those as well as looking outside of the region, bring new businesses in. But I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I hope that this commission will see the importance that VCEDA brings to our region.
Next, we have Tony Doty, followed by Barbara Altizer, then Randall Rowe.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening for public comment. I'm Tony Doty. I'm the mayor of Lebanon, have been the mayor for 21 years, been involved with the Russell County IDEA for about the same time. And I can go back, Jonathan, to actually working with Charlie Yates. And so I've been fortunate to have a front row seat in Lebanon with our VCEDA folks and recognize what they do since their inception. I noticed that a lot of comments here are to look at diversification. Well, VCEDA's been working on diversification of our local economy since 1988, and we appreciate their efforts. I can tell you all the businesses that we've been able to see in our community as a result of VCEDA. I know, I'm convinced that they would not be in Lebanon, the number of industries that we are fortunate to have, without VCEDA's investment. And we're very thankful for that, just as I see some of my colleagues who've experienced some of the same things. There's two things that I really am appreciative of VCEDA for, and we sometimes overlook this. We talk about the industry and, looking for an industry that will hire 150, 200 people. We're in our community, and I think probably all of us in the Coalfield region, I'll say this, we're very appreciative of the tax incentives and the grants, the seed grants that VCEDA has started. And we've been very fortunate to have a lot of our local businesses that we have in our community now in Russell County that were not there and probably would not be there without that seed capital money, and it's very much appreciated. I know our folks, I hear it every day. They're always asking me the application, how to get to, how they can apply for such funds. Well, of course, I'm fortunate in the region because all I have to do in Lebanon is send them out the road to where Jonathan is. But we do appreciate VCEDA. Like I said, the other thing, I think VCEDA has had an idea a long time on what we need to do to get away and provide other economic opportunities, not only from the education side, talking to industries. I appreciate the young lady before us here. Her point's very well made regarding visiting local businesses and finding out. I'm not talking about industrial sites now. I'm talking about businesses such as hers, and let those folks give us the information. They're dealing with it every day, so they can tell us our best approach to help them in their VCEDA efforts. So we're very much appreciative. I certainly, along with Tazewell County, I know our town, and I know let's see, Steve, I don't reckon I'm speaking out of town. I'm pretty sure the county we also have those resolutions that Tazewell, Mike and them passed, and we know that it's important. They're not reinventing the wheel, and we really do appreciate and have firsthand knowledge of the people that they have affected and the lives and the jobs that we have now here. I mean, I hope that we don't, I think sometimes when I read this legislation, I was a little bit confused, as many of my colleagues in this region were, that we weren't producing a product out of these coal tax credits and the funding of our VCEDA. And that is as far from the truth from those of us who live on the ground here and see it in our region every day. So we certainly support VCEDA and would also Ask that their funding continue to be reassigned, and let us move forward. Let us keep moving forward on a regional basis, which they introduced us to the idea of regionalism. You know, we walked through that when we were all 25, 30 years ago. A lot of us in here can remember, you know, what projects can we get in our county, or this county, or that county. And we are very appreciative of what VCTA did to help us all learn about regionalism and working together for the benefit of all of our citizens in our region. And we thank you for their efforts. Thank you.
Next, we have Barbara Altizer and Randall Rose, followed by David.
You mean to hold it for you?
No. Good evening. I'm Barbara Altizer with Metallurgical Coal Producers. MCPA is a membership organization dedicated to promoting and making aware metallurgical coal and its many uses. Our state is very fortunate. Over 80% of Virginia's coal is met coal, or simply put, met coal makes steel. So we're going to have it for many years to come. The future remains bright for metallurgical coal, both domestically and internationally, as the United States and countries around the world look to increase manufacturing and reinvent critical infrastructure. Southwest Virginia has a great opportunity to play a major role in our country's infrastructure investment. We cannot invest in infrastructure without steel, and you cannot make steel without met coal. Initiatives that spur economic development in our region, create investments in infrastructure, or boost our manufacturing base also benefit our coal miners, because the coal they mine is used to make the steel needed for economic growth. Automobiles, household appliances, bridges, buildings, and wind turbines are just a few of the products requiring good quality steel, again, made possible by metallurgical coal. We understand we're here due to the shift in the coal tax credit timeline and the financial impact to Southwest Virginia. For this reason, MCPA encourages the Commonwealth of Virginia to use the former tax credit for economic development groups such as VCTA and others. The loss of funding for these organizations will impact the future viability of many programs which are so important to Reenergize Southwest Virginia discussions such as these. We must find means to continue funding these programs and aiding Southwest Virginia. VCTA has brought hundreds of industries and tens of thousands of jobs into the coalfield region, as well as providing funding for our local businesses, and you've already heard that. Therefore, Metallurgical Coal Producers Board of Directors and its members are committed to Southwest Virginia and will continue to offer good-paying jobs and partner with VCTA through economic development programs, as well as other groups to attract additional industries into our region. MCPA will be happy to help in any way we possibly can. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak at this listening session.
Next, we have Randall Rose, followed by David Eden and Stephen Brady.
Hi, I'm Randall Rose, Dean of Workforce and Continuing Education at Southwest Virginia Community College. I'll talk a little bit more about that role in just a second, but I need to reminisce a little bit. When I was 16, I started working at a regional tourism attraction here in this area, and I was really interested in re-energizing the region. And that kind of pushed me into a lot of vision and ideas, and I was really excited. And I still have that excitement, and I've seen a lot of things happen over the years, and I just want to talk a little bit about that. By the time I was in my mid to late 20s, I ended up being the executive director of that small regional attraction. I found out really quickly that state funding would be going away, and we needed to diversify. We wanted to grow and progress. We wanted to be an awesome tourism destination, but also keep people in the area, keep workforce here, attract workforce. And I found out that partnerships would make that happen, and quickly people pointed me toward the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority to help do some key things with that attraction. And I won't go too deep into that, but I'll just simply say that that position, a lot of work that I was involved in, and so many others in this room, led me to work for the other state agencies that were doing these same things that we're talking about, a lot of these things we're talking about tonight, workforce and the economy and diversification. As I worked with the State Economic Development Office and a number of stakeholders throughout the region, we were really excited about a number of new initiatives and projects that could happen here. And each time I was pointed to key partners that should be involved, and especially some that could get things off the ground that other state agencies or federal agencies couldn't do at the time. And we were pointed to the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority. So a lot of those happened through that support. So even working with the State Economic Development Office, as we were looking at prospect companies or existing companies, Visita was a key partner. So I saw that happen in other positions, and as a resident of this region, now I find myself as the Dean of Workforce at Southwest Virginia Community College, and I will say that I found out quickly that just in those other positions, Visita is a key partner that we've had to rely on. I will say that some quick examples, we've heard a number of examples tonight, but some from our angle at Southwest Virginia Community College include tuition assistance. And I will say that tuition assistance that we see from Visita can differ from some of the tuition assistance you see at state and federal levels. Sometimes there's tuition assistance needed that those funding sources are not eligible for. One that was given earlier by our Lawrence Brothers representative, Melanie, if she needs customized training, a lot of times that won't fit into the other funding sources. So Visita has assisted us with tuition assistance and training assistance that we can do customized training for companies in this area. Furthermore, investments in infrastructure for workforce that we need, educational infrastructure, anticipated and current renewable energy projects and training, and a number of other ways that Visita has helped with our workforce development initiatives. And I could go down the list, including the Small Business Development Center partnership and office that we have on campus. We've heard the seed capital program mentioned many times, starting new businesses. That's through Visita. So just so many examples. And I'm here today. Our president, Dr. Tommy Wright, and our vice president of institutional advancement are joining us virtually. They asked me to just simply say thank you and express that we're grateful for that, not only in the past, but currently and going into the future, and just simply say how important Visita has been to us at Southwest Virginia Community College. Thank you.
Next up is David, followed by Steve Breeding, and then Ruth Blankenship.
How are you?
I'm good.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. Let me get my specs on. And I want to tell everybody I'm actually a new grandparent, so I'm very excited. I want to let everybody know, which I do, I tell everybody. But I am David Ely, elected to the Russell County Board of Supervisors. I've been on there 5 years. I'm a business owner. I've been in business for myself over 30 years in a couple of businesses. I built the first broadband infrastructure business back when BBU first got started in the rural area communities. Before all the money started getting handed out, I did it on my own dollar, and I feel very blessed that I was able to do that, to build into Russell and a little bit of Tazewell and Buchanan and Dickinson counties. Also on a cow-calf operation. I have 3 sons and now a grandson, and all of my boys have taken initiatives and actually went to Southwest Virginia Community College for advanced training. Since its creation, and let me tell you, I want to tell you something, and I haven't told Jonathan Belcher this, but one thing I learned early on is Jonathan Belcher and the board had an open door policy. one of the things when I first got elected, I was driven to bring jobs into Southwest Virginia. And I knew that it would take partnerships and relationships to do that. We would have to all come together. It couldn't be political. It had to be just the work ethic of all of us as leaders and elected officials to work together with our local Tazewell County, Buchanan, Dickinson, Wise, all the area region would need to work together to be able to be successful in this. We just couldn't be independent on our own because we knew that it was going to take leadership across the board. And I think a lot of that's reached. I served as the chair of the regional IDA when we first enacted it with Senator now, Travis Hackworth. And we had a lot of good ideas and we had a lot of great conversations to be able to do this. But I didn't write a 5-page thing because I knew I was limited on my time, but most of you that know me know I like to talk. But since its creation in 1988, the CETA has helped bring tens of thousands of jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars in approved funding for hundreds of projects throughout the Coalfield region. Instead of reducing funding for economic development, which is what, in part, the elimination of the state coal tax credit fund did, it is important that sources of funding to beef up economic development in the Coalfield region be identified. Through the Reenergize Southwest Virginia program, which has been tasked with looking at this issue, it is our hope that funds will be restored to VCETA to replace those funds the authority will lose through the elimination of the coal tax credit. The reduction in funding to VCETA as a result of the tax credit elimination will impact the programs VCETA currently offers. In addition to new jobs created, studies have shown that VCETA has also significantly reduced the region's unemployment rate and improved the diversification of the region's economy. Coal tax credit funds have been primary source of funding for 3 specific VCETA programs. The funding programs offered by VCETA, which utilize coal tax credit monies, the Coalfield Revolving Loan Fund, which provides a region-wide fund that provides low-interest loans projects to help the region's economic development and diversification. The Workforce Development and Training Fund, which provides a source of loan and grant funds for the workforce development and training in this region. The VCETA Renewable Energy Fund, which they appropriated $1 million to help establish a portion of the Coalfield the VCETA Renewable Energy Fund, $1 million fund established for a portion of the Coalfield Revolving Loan Fund and the Coalfield Workforce Development and Training Fund to assist in renewable energies projects and promote the economic diversification of Southwest Virginia's E-region. Funding is available for commercial and industrial electricity generations, projects which are solar, manufacturing of renewable energy products, and others. The loss of funding for those programs will impact the future vitality of each of these programs, which is why it is important that to re-energize this funding to VCETA. The loss of funding also, I think, is going to hurt us as local leaders because, like I said before, we had an open door policy through ideals, concepts, regional revenue sharing agreements, project identification, education. I serve also as a co-chair of the Go Virginia Ag Committee, which I'm a farmer, and we were looking at diversifying and looking into a lot of agriculture projects and things like that. The CETA was at the table also. They were there forehand and firsthand to actually say, what can we do to help? When me and Steve Breeding's going to speak next, our board actually, years ago, we initialized agriculture back in all of our schools. In the second year, we doubled enrollment. We are actually building at Lebanon High School now a state-of-the-art facility and partnering with our local educational partners to do research and development and these kinds of concepts. So it's very important to me as a local leader. And to be able to have that open door policy with VCETA for this funding to be restored completely. If you work on the ground, as some of us do, and we have our conversations, and I've heard great speakers tonight state the importance of having VCETA there, but it's so important. I don't think anybody that hasn't been on the ground with Ernie, with our IDA chairman, and with Tony, working as mayor of a municipality there in Lebanon and our other municipality leaders fully understand the importance of what this means because it's a team and they're the number one person in our team. So I just want to make sure that we get this money restored, and that way we can move on with these projects at hand. We've got a couple right now in the gate, and we sure don't need to lose the funding if we have access to it. Thank you.
Next is Steve Breeding, followed by Ruth Blankenship, then J.P. Richardson.
My name is Steve Breeding. I'm a member of the Russell County Board of Supervisors. Also serve on the Cumberland Plateau Executive Committee. Also a member of the Southwest Virginia Research and Energy Development Authority. You know, the worst thing about going behind David Eaton is nothing left to be said once he leaves the stage, but I'm going to try anyway. One of the great things I think about DCD is that they take monies that were generated by the coal industry in a particular county, and they reinvest that money in those counties in a supervised manner and in a diversified manner. And they've been doing this for over 30 years. I think David mentioned 2 or 3 of the programs. The loss of the coal tax credit is going to be detrimental to at least 3 programs that they fund. I think one's a revolving loan fund, one is a renewable energy fund, and one is a workforce development program. And I think all 3 of those projects those programs are probably in jeopardy now, unless this group can find some additional funding to replenish the funds that are needed to keep those programs alive. Back when David and I were elected, I guess we're in our 5th or 6th year, or we're in the 2nd year of our 2nd term, I guess. One of the first things I did is look at what type of businesses were employers in Russell County and actually throughout Southwest Virginia. And I found out through a little research that probably in excess of 65% of the employment was provided by small businesses. And when I say small, I'm saying less than 50 employees. But the bulk of those were provided by companies with less than 10 employees. And one of the great programs I think that Jonathan has at CDC is the Seed Capital Program. My friend Tony Doty mentioned it. But I think they've played a part in over 100 new business starts throughout the coal fields. And they generated, as a result of that, about 300 jobs. And the amount of money they've spent doing that is just remarkably low. And as a result of that, they've also generated over, I think, close to $35 million in additional financing. So what I'd like to do tonight is just say you do a little research on your own. Go back and look at all the projects, the successful projects that have been undertaken, say, since 1988, and check out the major funders and the people that were involved in that. I think you'll find that CETA has had a major role in the vast majority of those, particularly in the coalfield counties. So they've been doing diversification since 1988, and I would just urge this interagency group to try to find additional funds that CETA can use to continue this. They've been a great friend to Russell County. I can truthfully say that a lot of the projects that are in Russell County, as well as in the rest of the coalfield region, would not be that if not for these CETA. So that's all I have to say. I appreciate it, the opportunity of being here tonight. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Ruth Blankenship, followed by J.P. Richardson, and then Connie Bailey-Kidd.
Thank you. Bluefield College, like all the other industries of the coal fields in the last 30 years, has had to diversify. But we wouldn't have been able to diversify if it had not been for CETA revitalizing and energizing our economy. It kept our citizens here. It returned our citizens here. During the last 30 years, we've grown. We're a private college, and when I say private, we receive no state funding. We're 93 dependent. 93% of our revenue comes from tuition. So if we didn't have students, we would not be open. The majority of our students come within a 90-mile radius of this area, of our campus in Tazewell County. So that means the Coalfield community. So we need our citizens, we've needed businesses, and as part of our diversification, we've seen what has grown, what have been the needs, what has been funded by VCETA, partners in the law school, the pharmacy school. We have added work degree completion programs for individuals who are still working that need to grow their degrees. Our first group was actually in Buchanan County, one of the counties worst hit with the fall of the coal economy. We've added master's degree programs. We do dual enrollment with our area high schools. But we couldn't be here today. We couldn't be serving Tazewell County or the Coalfield if we didn't have the vibrant economy that exists. Look around us. Look what happened in West Virginia and other places. A place like Richlands High School may not even exist anymore. It could be shuttered. We're very fortunate. I've lived here my whole life. I'm a product of Buchanan County. My father ran a coal company, and it shuttered in the 80s due to the economy. So I know very well what diversification can mean. And I'm very thankful for the work being done by VCETA and Blissville colleges too. Again, we wouldn't have citizens to educate and their children to educate if it was not possible for the funding that's been made possible.
Next is J.P. Richardson, followed by Connie Bailey Kidd, and then Ellen and Don Elm.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Certainly a very important subject. But first I'd like to start with a comment. And that comment is the journey to economic diversification in Southwest Virginia is well on its way. But we must keep fuel in the tank if we plan to reach our destination. I've had the honor of serving on the VCETA board since 2012. And had the opportunity to be the chairman from 2016 to 2020. Currently, I serve as the chairman of the executive committee of the Coalfield Economic Development Authority. I want to talk to you today about a subject that's very near to my heart. And being a resident of Southwest Virginia and working in the coal fields, I'm the vice president of operations for United Coal. So I think I have a pretty good view of both sides of the fence. I also have children who are recent young adults who are in the process of starting their own lives here in Southwest Virginia, starting families. So I feel like I have a pretty good perspective of what's going on, and I certainly have a vested interest in Southwest Virginia and what happens with economic development in our region. In 1988, the leaders or elected officials and leaders of Southwest Virginia, they seen the future. They realized, just as many of you have spoken here, that the decline of the coal industry would happen, and it has. But we also know, as has been stated, that metallurgical coal still has a future here. But we also realize that that significance in our economy has diminished greatly over the last few years, just due to the market that we serve. When VCETA was formed, one of the things that the elected officials made sure of is that the dollars that went in there was used for economic diversification for things other than natural resource related projects. And all of the local officials, the coal industry, the gas industry, people got on board because they could see the future. They were like me. They had an invested interest in the area, and they wanted to see our region be successful. As has been stated, VCETA is funded by the proceeds from the coal mining and gas severance. A portion of those severance taxes goes to our counties, is used for education, roads, water projects, and other things other than VCETA. But VCETA, a portion of those proceeds goes to economic development. Through the course of time, I've had the opportunity to serve on the BC board with some very knowledgeable people. The board is composed of supervisors, members of the board of supervisors from the 3 top coal-producing counties, now Buchanan, Dickinson, and Tazewell counties. It has governor appointees on it, members of the 2 planning districts that we represent, and company appointees. But through my time on the board, I've been able to serve with college professors, engineers, accountants, financial planning experts, lawyers, entrepreneurs, healthcare experts. There has been a vast amount of people who have came to serve on our board that has brought a great amount of knowledge and a great amount of passion to serve on the board and determine how the dollars that have been paid in can be utilized. We all have seen that over the last 30 years, the economy's changed quickly. I see it, being a resident of the area, see it every day. But we are blessed. Still have some of the finest metallurgical coal anywhere in the world. And that will continue, fortunately, for some time to have a significant impact on our economy. I think if you ask the board of supervisors in 3 counties today, what would happen if you turned the spigot off right now on coal severance, it'd be a scary thing. But certainly from the employment side, the tax dollars, severance tax, property, machinery, and tools, there's millions of dollars that goes in. And also the economic development, the funds that go to BC that come from those things. BC is a transformational organization. Since I've been on the board since 2012, I've seen the focus change. I've seen the interest and things that we've done be modified to address the current needs. It's already been mentioned, the Renewable Energy Fund that's been recently established, our seed capital fund, the work on tourism. There's a lot of dollars that go from BC to every year to the tourism industry that many of you have talked about here. It's impossible to drive through Southwest Virginia to not see the fingerprints of BC. If you drive up any of the major corridors and you see any of the businesses that you see, if there could be a sign out front that said BC to help fund this business, you'd be surprised to see how many of those there really were. One of the things that I enjoy about working with BC is when we come together to do our job, there's no Democrats, there's no Republicans. We do have Democrats on the board, we do have Republicans on the board, we have independents on the board. But the fact of the matter is, when we get ready to do our job, all that's left at the door. And we are not D's or R's, Reds or Blues. We are all citizens of Southwest Virginia with one common goal of seeing the best use of the dollars that we have available to spend. Again, I would like to read the statement again. The journey to economic diversification in Southwest Virginia, well on its way. We must keep fuel in the tank to reach our destination. That fuel in the tank is the dollars that are needed to give to businesses to get started. The loss of the coal tax credit dollars to be seeded into our region is real. It will be felt. It will be a hard impact. So certainly we are asking that consideration be given to those dollars come back to Southwest Virginia, and that we be able to continue with those things that we started many years ago, and the work has been. Again, thank you for your time, and again, I urge those that will be making decisions to sincerely consider the work that BC is doing. Thank you.
Next is Connie Bailey Kidd, followed by Ellen and Don Elms, and Tim Danielson will wrap it up for the evening.
Hi, everyone. We're here to talk about the state's efforts in Southwest Virginia with economic development, which, according to the JLAR research report, have not been terribly successful. In our corner of the state, we have seen new manufacturing. We've seen manufacturing shops open up, and we've seen the new fish farm. But we might want to be concerned about even those successes because of an underlying problem, which is how successful
can a business be, especially when we haven't addressed an underlying problem? That being, how can you, and ask the underlying question, which is how long can you sustain a business successfully when a sizable percentage of the workforce can't pass the drug screen? The substance abuse problems in this area of the state are pervasive, and they're obvious, and they're generational. We still have babies being born drug dependent. We have a foster care system that's a mess. We have grandparents raising their grandchildren. We have jail costs that are going through the roof. And if you live here, you probably know either a coworker, a family member, a neighbor, or a friend who's had some issues with substance abuse and all the devastation that it causes in so many ways, including economically. So here's an idea. Put some economic development funds into a farm-based substance abuse recovery center. This is an evidence-based approach that's worked. And I noticed when Southwest Virginia Community College was making their presentation, maybe it wasn't an accident, but right underneath substance abuse and healthcare, they had best and highest use of the land. But a farm-based recovery center, the merits of that in Southwest Virginia would be twofold. First of all, it could put clean and sober people into the workforce. And second, it could develop a skill that fits in with the agricultural base of this community. There's many issues that we're divided about politically and polarized on with the rest of the state, but on substance abuse, we share bipartisan recognition of the need to do something. Yet, what we've done, pardon the expression, is a little bit like peeing in the ocean. If you just do a Google search for treatment center in Southwest Virginia, you'll see that from Salem and westward, you can count the results on one hand. But across the border in Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, or West Virginia, you'll find the need addressed much more actively. And we know many in this area, even when they make the decision that they want to get clean, they can't find a place to go to. So what would a farm-based recovery center look like? At this type of center, our fellow citizens needing help would undergo detox and participate in therapy and sobriety support meetings, much as they would do in traditional rehab centers. But this model would also incorporate farming into the treatment programs. And again, it's an evidence-based approach. Some centers that are currently using this model encourage people to take care of animals, to forage for crops, to garden, and they do that either on-site or they partner with farms in their area. And it could all be income producing and even export producing. And so how and why would a farm-based recovery center be particularly good for here in Southwest Virginia? I'd say, number one, farm-based recovery is compatible with the heritage and the ancestry of Southwest Virginia. And number two, many of the people who are seeking recovery have grown up in or around farms or they've worked on farms. And many of those who are in long-term recovery, have long-term recovery, and who are available to help are farmers themselves, and they can relate farming and recovery. And if you ask what do we mean by relating farming and recovery, many addicts will tell you that feeling lonely and different is the main reason that they use drugs and alcohol. And working with others in therapy does help them to realize that they're not alone, and it's a great way to help them accept their flaws, but that can only do so much. When you work on a farm team with others, you're contributing to something bigger than yourself, and it would show someone in addiction or in recovery from addiction the many benefits of team building as well as giving a sense of purpose. And part of that team could be people from healthcare programs like Southwest has. You think about on a farm how many trade skills you need to have, carpentry skills and electrical skills. So it could tie in with that kind of, those trade skills that were mentioned earlier. And also it could leverage money from a whole lot of different agencies and the private sector. Farming can also encourage spirituality and provide help from addiction by allowing people to shift their focus. If you talk to people in long-term recovery from substance abuse, almost all of them will tell you how important the spiritual aspect is to recovery. Instead of concentrating on their own addictions and their own problems, working with the soil or caring for animals allows people to get outside of themselves and to experience creation. And what do you see in creation? You see regeneration. And also, many people struggle to see something, and people who have addictions or in recovery, they struggle to see something through. And what requires more persistence than farm work, not too many other things, but it gives you a reward for that persistence. So it can greatly impact the way people feel about themselves. It can provide a sense of purpose and skills that can be carried out into the community, whether it's working for a farmer or for a farm-to-table business that I know some other people are thinking about, an animal care center, or even starting a farm of their own. This idea isn't original to us. In fact, it's, or to me or anybody else who's been part of this idea, but it's been talked about among the residents in our county for years. And we'll document that in our written submission. The talk among the locals is that the Bluestone Regional Industrial Park, which has been dormant for years, would be an ideal place. It's got prime farmland, it's got perennial springs that could be protected, and it's a great place for renewable energy. And who knows what's, underground. And it would capitalize on the past investment of the Virginia Tobacco Commission money. And it could be called the Bluestone Regional Farm Recovery Center. That's all. Thank you so much for listening and letting us have the opportunity to give this idea.
Next, we have Ellen and Don Elm and Tim Danielson.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk tonight. I'm Ellen Elms and my husband Don Elms. We're here as homeowners and utility customers. We've lived up on Jewel Ridge for almost 50 years, very grateful to have done so. And we have been interested for a long time in at least partially being able to power our home with solar energy. And we finally started getting serious about it not too long ago and looked into if we could install solar panels on our property or on our roofs, on our rooftop, and found very quickly that since we live in the middle of a forest in the woods, that the sun does not reach us enough to make it dependable. But then we went on to find out about a program that has happened around the nation and also in different states and some areas of our broader region. And that is about shared solar or community solar. Now, there hasn't been too much said tonight about renewable energy, sustainable energy, diversification for the future, different from what we've been doing or trying to do in our region. The shared solar or community solar idea is that a group of citizens in a community or a broad region are interested in powering their own homes with partially, at least, with solar. And so the utility company participates and enables that by developing solar projects, i.e. building solar panels in a large area in the region. And then customers of the utility company can buy into that, we could pay our electrical bill by having credits that would enable our power to come partially or wholly from those solar units. This is an advantage to many, many people, not only like ourselves who live in an area with too many trees, but also apartment owners, people who rent, don't own their own properties. There's many, many people in our rural region who don't have the ability to provide their own solar. And this idea, where it's carried out in other states, has happened because the legislature of those states has required, not allowed, as it is in Virginia, but required their power companies to provide that option and to offer the building of solar projects in their region. Now, Appalachian Power and Dominion Energy are allowed to provide that since 4 years ago, but they have never offered that option to their customers nor begun a solar project. And we would like to see our Virginia legislature act on requiring that as an option to customers, energy customers in communities where there is a desire to have that diversification and option to utilize solar power.
Just last week, we had, 100 people die in Western Canada. We had temperatures of 120 degrees. Ellen and I have relatives who were in Alaska, 96 degrees, where they were. Global warming is happening. It's a problem that's not going to affect us who are older, but it's definitely going to affect our children and our grandchildren. And it's really important for every region of the country to be trying to solve the problem. Here in Southwest Virginia, as Ellen was describing, we have a great opportunity to locate solar panels in different regions. Imagine if farmers who own farmland with southwest-facing hillsides, if it was economically viable for them to set up a small solar power station there to provide energy into the grid, where they might get some payment for that, or provide a service for their community to allow them to have their energy at a lower cost and eliminate some of the problem of pollution of the atmosphere by using solar energy. It seems, I'm talking to one of my neighbors about the whole idea because he's got a whole bank of hillside that faces the southern direction. If he took a little bit of time and hired some people to timber that, sell the timber, make some profit from it, but then put in place a whole hillside of solar panels, he'd be doing a wonderful service for the community and potentially making some extra income for himself. So I'm just saying that we really need to do something. We've been talking about diversification, our coal miners, the writings on the wall, metallurgical coal is still going to be happening in the region, but that's about it. Our population has declined because coal mining is no longer a viable part of our economy. And what we need to be doing is looking at the existing coal miners that are out of work at the moment and retraining them as much as possible to go into some industries that would be viable for the future. One of those is solar energy. Another is we have welders coming out our ears who have been involved in the coal mining industry. Why can't we use them to retrain to make windmill, parts of windmills to be shipped out to other locations? There's a lot that we have the resources for in terms of our people, and we ought to be utilizing it and looking to the future to make it a better place for our children and grandchildren.
Let me just add one more quick thing, and that is a statement from a town in the state of Maine where they enacted these community solar projects. And it says that it allowed previously excluded groups of Mainers to access clean, renewable, and affordable solar power. Since the update to the program, Maine has attracted hundreds of millions of dollars in new investment, and the ripple effect of this new solar development is poised to benefit every corner of Maine's economy. Thank you.
And last one is Tim Danielson.
Thank you. My name is Tim Danielson. I'm Director of Economic Development for Tazewell County. A little bit about myself. Before I got involved in economic development, I was a site selection consultant for a firm in Chicago, Illinois. And I would get called on by gentlemen like Jonathan here. He is the tip of the spear at reaching out to new businesses, looking at Southwest Virginia. It's his job to introduce Southwest Virginia to new businesses and also be that tip of the spear for existing businesses, such as Melanie and Lawrence Brothers and every other business that's here. Now, to that tip of the spear, you mentioned substance abuse. We are talking to someone in that area, that's all I can say. And Jonathan, of course, would be a part of that tip of the spear with that particular business. Why are we here? HB 1899, SB 1252. As they're currently written, they're bad bills. Why are they bad bills? Because they damage your tip of the spear. You can't have your tip of the spear be damaged by bad legislation. Are there elements of that legislation that are good? I'm sure there are. But it's your job to reach out to your constituents, your delegates, your senators, and to let them know that as the bill is currently written, it's not a good bill. Either repeal it, don't pass it, change it, but we have to preserve the revenue to the CETA and to organizations like the CETA so that all of our counties can grow. We can have increased population, which then can increase our taxes, which then can increase the student body at all of our various colleges and universities. That is really what I have to say is send a message to your delegate, to your state senator, let them know that they need to go back to the drawing board, preserve what's good, but you've got to keep the revenue for VCETA and organizations like VCETA.
Okay, that wraps up our public comment portion of the evening. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for attending the meeting and for those of you who commented. But also very much like to thank our hosts here at Richlands High School and the staff who helped us improvise at least a somewhat workable solution to the numerous technical difficulties faced this afternoon meeting. We'll be hosting the third final session on Thursday evening at the Jetty Day Center in Clintwood. That also begins at 6 p.m. I'd like to remind those of you who did provide comments that we would encourage you to submit written versions to the Reenergize email box so that we make sure we capture them accurately in the construction of the report. And with that, thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned.